Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today. We're going to spend 5 to 10 minutes together and talk about the considerations and process if you need to change your financial advisor. My name is Morgan Veth. I'm a certified financial planner here at Bogart Wealth, and joined with my colleague,
Patrick Marcinko, certified financial planner. Well, Morgan, we've got a good bit to cover today. And, the first thing we want to talk about is, what are some of the reasons that people ultimately get to a point where it's like, hey, maybe it's time to think about a new advisor. I think, both of us could agree that one of the reasons is, most often, well, I haven't heard from my advisor in quite a long time. And so, what are some of those reasons and what do people make of if they haven't gotten good engagement from their team?
Yeah, that is a common one. And I think part of that can also happen as someone is like changing different phases of their life, because as you're accumulating, maybe an annual check-in is terrific, right? And kind of covers what you need versus as you're getting closer to retirement or things get more complex, you need more of like a quarterly contact or more frequent engagement. So that is a big one that I see and important too, because then when you're going to say, okay, it's time and you're starting to look for another advisor, that's a pretty easy filter to be able to say, hey, what's your client to advisor ratio, right? Like what does your contact strategy look like so that you're both on the same page? But that is a common one.
Absolutely. And speaking of kind of contact, one of the things we've talked about so much at the firm is wanting to work with both partners and kind of making sure that everybody has a voice in the room. And so can you talk a little bit about the importance of that? And if that's not happening, really what should people think of that? Yeah,
absolutely. So that is important to engage the unengaged spouse. There's typically always one in the relationship, right? They're like, I don't care about this, which is okay. We, even in my marriage, we divide things up. We have different skills. But it is important that you're all in on kind of the big picture planning and the understanding of that. And so, yeah, if you've got an advisor who's only really directing questions to one of you and just kind of excluding them, maybe not intentionally so, or it's someone that your spouse just doesn't really connect with, right? Yeah. These are kind of things to say, okay, let's make sure we've got the right fit or start to kind of interview others.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
So let's say, Patrick, once you've kind of gone through, breakups are hard, you've identified like, I as a client need to look for someone else. What are some like filters and ways that clients could look for other advisors?
So great question, because there's so much out there about everyone this is a financial advisor, this. And when you go on Google, it can be overwhelming to a large degree of, okay, who really can help? And I think you hit on something earlier talking about the evolution of financial planning needs. Not all financial planners do the same thing. There are certain groups that have incredible technical expertise on things like retirement. And so what does that transition look like? What are your employer plans look like? And so do they not only have experience with that demographic of client and that transition with wealth, but do they know your specific plan? I think we can both attest that corporate plans today, there's many pages and there's lots of rules and tricks, and you want someone that this isn't their first journey on that. And so I think that that's such a crucial part. But the other part is referrals are a really great source, and looking at peers and saying, hey, we're kind of, getting to a similar point in retirement or both work at the same company. Have you ever had experience with someone that you trust?
Yep.
And I find that that's really a great starting point, and it can kind of cut through some of the marketing and filters on Google and, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I think referrals are great because, again, someone you know and trust and can identify, they're in a similar phase. There's a lot of kind of great third-party places too. I mean, even looking at the CFP website or Barron's, a lot of people find us from Barron's. And I think it's important to interview multiple advisors. I mean, do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think one of the things is there's the technical side, can they give you really good advice? Yep. But then the other side of that is, do they have a client service schedule or manner that you'd be comfortable with? Some folks really want a technical full service shop. There may be differences there. There may be differences in approaches, communication styles. And I think the biggest thing is, there's going to be so many personal things that are discussed. You want someone you're comfortable with. Agreed. And when you're sitting across from them making big decisions, you want to feel like you're heard, comfortable. And I think get to that and be confident in your decision by interviewing a few different firms. Absolutely.
I agree. It's funny when I have like a prospect, potential client sitting across me, they're kind of apprehensive to say like, well, I'm talking to other people too. And it's like, no, you should. Good. Like that's what you should be doing. And then, after you find and kind of identify your new advisor, I think the other piece that feels like a big uphill battle is like moving my accounts. Like I got to go back and have this awkward conversation. So like tell everybody, like, what does that process look like to actually transfer that relationship?
So it's not as scary as you think. Now, the process really begins with, okay, let's get everything situated here with your new advisor. Make sure your accounts are open. Make sure you can see everything. You know exactly where your money's going to go. But then the other part of that is, we facilitate that transfer. We go to the old advisor and we let them know, hey, here's a agreement that says, hey, this client's agreed to come here. We're going to work with you, make sure every dollar that's over there is accounted for. And that's really the process. Now, professional courtesy, we would recommend letting them know, but we handle all of it. We handle the back end. We handle making sure all the money comes over. And so it's really not as daunting. And we've done this for so many clients that, I've even helped kind of coach on what you might want to say.
Exactly.
From the advisor's perspective.
Breakups are hard.
Breakups are hard, but the technical side of moving the assets, we have a great team and we make it as painless as possible.
Yeah, I agree. It's easy to do and can often be, as quick as a couple of days, 2 weeks, depends on where we're transferring from, but we do it. I think is kind of the main, point is whoever you're going to be working with moving forward takes care of it.
And the other question I get on that all the time is, well, what happens with taxes? If I move from X account to Y, is that going to mess everything up? Number one, that should have been a big discussion topic of what does that transition look like. But in a lot of cases, we can actually take what's inside the existing account, move it over. And so it would be very rare that we would have some tax friction as a part of that process. But we outline all of that. So along the way, you know exactly what's happening with your money.
Yep. No surprises. Yeah, I agree. All stocks, ETFs, really most mutual funds. anything can move over in kind. So you're staying invested. We're going to bring over and capture that cost basis, right? And kind of keep track of it. So not as daunting as some might think.
No, not at all.
Awesome. Well, I think that kind of covers, again, want to keep it brief, but just talk about some considerations in the process. If you are looking to change advisors, certainly if you want to go through a plan or anything that we can help with, feel free to reach out. We'd love to talk with you.